Alright, so we're back today, continuing in the series of calling, where we look at what we're called as Christians to do, how we're called to live. We're called to three simple things: love God, love others, and make disciples. And so today we're looking at what it's like to love others, and just what that means for us as Christians, why we love others, and what it looks like to love others. So just want to start, what does it look like to love others? Loving others should be a reflection of God's love for us and a result of our love for God. It's pretty simple, but we're also called to love God, and there's a reason for that. Why are we called to love God? Because one, God first loved us. And two, because it's a way to show the joy we have in our lives to others. We share God's love with others by loving others, because if we truly care about someone, we don't want them to miss out on this awesome opportunity in heaven. Just as the prodigal son was welcomed back into his father's arms, just as his father said, "Come home, my son," and welcomed him in. God wants to welcome us in, and that's just amazing joy. Think about the feast and the celebration they have. God wants that for us, and he wants that for everyone. And if we truly care about our friends, we'll want to share that with them too. We'll want them to be able to sit down at the table and feast with us and feast with God. We all know John 3:16, for God so loved the world, but in John 3:17 through 21, talks more about what it's like to love others and why we're called to love others and what it means when we love others. So 17 says, "For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light, because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives in the truth comes into the light, so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God." So that doesn't blatantly say why we love others or how we love others, but it does remind us that we're called to love others because we don't want to live in darkness. See, God sent his Son to die for us because he loves us. We need to share that love with others so that they too don't have to live in darkness. We need to share God's light with others. We need to share God's love with others. See, it's a lot easier to see when you are in the light, when you're in the light and not the darkness. So by sharing the gospel, we're sharing the light. We're giving them the ability to distinguish good from evil and to live that way forever. God's love should reflect off of us onto others and into the darkness. And that's the amazing thing about light, is that light reflects. Darkness doesn't do that. Light reflects, and we're called to reflect. Just as our love for others is a reflection of God's love for us, light should reflect off of us. God's love is light, and to know God and to know his love is to live in the light, not in the darkness. Light cannot be canceled out, just as love cannot be canceled. Only darkness can be canceled by the light. Good cannot be canceled. Light cannot be canceled. Love cannot be canceled. Darkness and evil and hatred can be canceled by love and by light and by good, by hope, and all these great things that we have. We need to be filled with the love, though, so that we can reflect his light for all to see. Because when we fill ourselves with evil, dark, negative thoughts, it's like when we go out in the sun wearing a black shirt. The light just absorbs into it. But when we fill ourselves with the light reflects off of us and onto others and onto those around us. And that's how we're called to live, in a way where God's love reflects off of our life into the lives of those around us, so that they too can know this joy and love experienced by God. By filling ourselves with the Spirit, we're able to pour out God's love. No one can be saved except through the Father. So we need to share the love of the Father for all to see, because no one can have love, no one can live in the light unless they know the Father, unless they know Christ. But the good news is he came to die for us so that we can have that relationship, so that we can know him. Just as light exposes evil, it also shines on the good. We need to live and love as if we're unashamed of the gospel. We need to live in love so others too can know the goodness of God as seen in this book. We need to shine our light from the rooftops for all to see. Love is not canceled. Love will never be canceled. And yeah, even though we're in this time of chaos right now, seems like everything's canceled, love is not. Love remains. Greatest of all things is love, and love is still out there. Love still remains. We still get to live in love. We still get to show God's love and bask in it. So I challenge y'all this week, how can you share God's love for others through all the chaos in this world right now? What does it look like for you to show love for others? How can you share the love of God, and how can you share the joy that God gives us with someone around you? Whether it just be at a Starbucks drive-thru or at your grocery store. If you're trying to get groceries in this time of chaos, you know, maybe it's a little more difficult than just a smile, as we're all wearing masks, it seems, nowadays. But what does it look like for you to show love for others? Maybe it's picking groceries up for someone else. Maybe it's through service, yes. Maybe it's just through reaching out and being there to talk, to FaceTime, to call, just to be there for someone to listen. What does it look like for you to love others? Just remember this week, when you think about how can God's love for others be seen through you? How can you share it? How can you love others in this time of chaos? But we also have to remember just one last thing, is without humility, God's love cannot be seen to its fullest extent. Without humility, we cannot show God's love in all of its capacity. So humble yourselves to love others. It's not about you, it's about God. And that's why God's love and the way that we show love is a reflection of God's love for us and a response to God's love for us. It's not a reflection of ourselves. It's not a response to ourselves, but to God, to share God, to make God known, to know God more. And that's our goal in loving God, loving others, and making disciples. We have to humble ourselves and do it for God. So how can you humble yourselves this week and share God's love?